Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing a character file review of Peter Beale. Peter Beale is a character who has appeared in EastEnders for several years now. He made his first appearance in EastEnders way back in 1993, being one of a set of twins to be born in EastEnders. He was obviously born to Cindy and Ian Beale, and also alongside that was his sister Lucy Beale. And they were both twins who were born on, I believe, the 9th of December 1993, but according to other accounts it says the 16th of December 1993. So I don't know, you guys make up your mind in the comment section down below, whatever you think really. I'm going to stick with the 9th because that's what Google mainly says. So yeah, I'm going to stick with that one. So yeah, Peter Beale. So Peter Beale, as a character, I find really good because Peter started way back as a child in the series, obviously, and grew up throughout the years. And he's been played by a total of seven different actors throughout his 31-year history as a character. So I think that's completely bonkers, to be fair, that he's been played by 7 different people, which is mind-blowing, to be honest. I don't remember all of the names or all the different actors who played Peter Beale, particularly the young ones, but I know the main 3. You've got Thomas Law, Ben Hardy, and Dale Hudson. Those are the main 3 versions of Peter that we're mainly going to be talking about today, because there's several other ones. They don't really have as much screen time or kind of storylines in a way in comparison to them 3. So that's what I'm going to be mainly focused on that kind of stuff. But the early part of Peter Beale's child life was obviously you had the divorce between, you know, Cindy and Ian and that kind of thing, where Cindy tries to kidnap, you know, Peter Beale and Stephen and all that. So you had that kind of stuff that began. And then obviously growing up, you know, he had that thing where he had Mel as a stepmother, and then Ian ruined that, of course he did, by saying that Lucy had cancer. I mean, who does that? What kind of sick person does that? I had no idea. Ian can sometimes be an absolute wally. But yeah, and obviously you had Mel, and then obviously you had Laura, and we all know how that went. Ian chucked her out after accusing that Bobby wasn't his son, even though he actually was. Ian, again, being an absolute wally. So yeah, so Peter had to go through a lot of that in his child life. He didn't know he knew who his mum was, but then again, she had died supposedly in childbirth, back in 1998. So that's kind of completely bonkers that he had to grow up with all of that going on. And then when Peter reaches the year 2006, and he's about 13, I believe. I think my maths is right there. Yeah, about 13 years old. Peter starts, you know, becoming more of a character. He's more front and centre. And this is also when the character was recast to be played by Thomas Law. And if I'm completely honest, I think Thomas Law does an absolutely amazing job. Big shout out to Thomas Law if you're watching my video. You probably aren't, but you know, if you are. I think Thomas Law does a really great job of relaying that kind of young Peter. But then as he grows up, he slightly drifts apart from Ian, and him and Ian kind of become quite separate. And you see the arguments, particularly towards the end, the tail end of Thomas Law's first term, as it was, as Peter Beale, when, you know, the arguments about Glenda, who pushed Glenda down the stairs and all that kind of stuff, you know. Is Ian having an affair with Glenda and all that kind of, you know, stuff. And also, Peter and Lauren. This is something like that's kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but it's always kind of aggravated me, because they're one minute they're like this, the other minute they're like this, and the other minute they're like, you know, up and down, up and down, up and down. And I don't know why. But the writers are doing something right at the moment, because Peter and Lauren are together. And that's how it should be, you know. So, in about 2007, Peter Beale, played by Thomas Law, then starts to kind of get that crush on Lauren. They kind of get together. It's all kind of nice. They date for like a good few years and all that. And Max is like, Max doesn't want Peter to have anything to do with Lauren because, well, he just don't want him to do with anything. And Max is a bit controlling. He literally tries to, you know, kind of attack Peter, and, you know, not particularly the nicest stuff that happened to Peter. And then even Peter, when he's not even dating Whitney at this specific time, but so Whitney's stepdad, who was not a very nice man particularly, when they were rehearsing for Romeo and Juliet, which was the play that Peter, Beale and Whitney were in, he literally sees them rehearsing and he literally belts Peter, Beale right in the face. Like, who does that to him? He's like some kind of 14-year-old kid. Like, I don't know. I have no idea what he's on. Like, what he's doing. Like, it's completely mad. Like, he's a completely mad control freak. And you see how that kind of affects Peter, because Peter is quite innocent at this point in time. Like, he's not like, he hasn't done anything wrong, he hasn't committed any crimes, he's not, Peter Beale is a nice guy, like, he's not horrible or mean or any stretch of the imagination, which I always find, like, peculiar that in later episodes they kind of picture out Peter to be kind of bad when he's actually kind of good, you know what I mean? See, that all kind of happens, all that kind of terrible stuff. But I do really enjoy Thomas Law's portrayal, because that kind of innocent child and then growing into that kind of mischievous, you know, adult as well. Because I do like it when you have that kind of relationship where you have, you know, Peter, Fat Boy, Lucy, you know, Lauren, Whitney and all that. You got them together. You know, like in that kind of their little gang kind of zone. And a thingy car, I can't remember her name at the time of recording. But, yeah, so I kind of like that kind of gang bit, and you know, how he has the thing on his, the necklace where it's got like the P on it, and he's like P-Dog, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, you know, it's a bit cringy, no looking back, but I feel like it adds to the charm when you watch them back, I feel like. Because it kind of puts you in that mindset of like 2008, 2009, 2010 kind of era, which I kind of like. And yeah, I kind of like that kind of that dynamic that he's got with that kind of gang and that kind of gang together. And it's really cool. And something else I think I'm going to point out here is that Peter Beale and Ben Mitchell have literally been interchanged like at the same time. Like if you look back, in 2006, I think Charlie Jones, I think that's his name, Charlie Jones was cast as Ben Mitchell. Also, in 2006, Thomas Law was cast as Ben Mitchell. Not as Ben Mitchell, as Peter Beale. Don't know what happened there. As Peter Beale. And then, as soon as Thomas Law leaves in 2010, guess who else is replaced in 2010? You guessed it, Ben Mitchell. He was replaced with Joshua Pascoe. And then Peter gets replaced with Ben Hardy, and then Ben gets replaced with Harry Reid, and then Harry Reid gets replaced with Max Bowden, and then Peter gets replaced with Dale Hudson. You know, it's kind of that kind of quick change around that they keep on replacing Peter and Ben, like almost at the same time as well, and then back to Thomas Law. But yeah, so kind of talking about Thomas Law again, I have no idea where that kind of went. So his character kind of grows up on the square, and you see that throughout the whole time, him having relationships with various characters like Whitney, Lauren, all that kind of stuff. And Peter leaves. He decides to leave. He's had enough of Walford. He's had enough in 2010. I mean, to be fair, Lucy had already gone, and that's where he just goes off. And Peter has that really lovely exit where he goes off. We don't see Peter for 3 years. I mean, roughly. And he goes off and he says, "Oh, I'm going to go and see Lucy." That was a really awful impression. He goes off and he says, "Oh, I'm going to go and stay with Lucy." So he stays with Lucy. And then Lucy comes back to the square a year prior to Peter returning. And then Peter returns. Peter Beale returns. And Peter Beale has regenerated into Ben Hardy. And Ben Hardy brings a lot of emotion to the role and a bit more power. He also seems to be a little bit more tougher, like a tougher version of Peter Beale, because he seems to be, he's more, you know, if something goes wrong, he's eager to use his fists and stuff. But he's also got kind of that niceness quality to him, where he's really kind and kind of soft and sweet as well. And they also make him a runner. This is something else, that a character trait that they still do today, is that Peter Beale kind of got more kind of active. Like, he did like more fitness stuff. He was he would run around the square and do stuff like that. And also he took over after Ian decided to, you know, give him the fruit and vegetable. So that went to Ben Hardy's version of Peter Beale. He ran the fruit and vegetable. Put some photos up on the screen and all that. So he decided to run the fruit and vegetable, and that was really great for a time. And he gets back with Lauren, of course he gets back with Lauren, because that's what they always do. They always break them up and put them back together, then put them back together, and then together again. Yeah, so he gets back with Lauren. They kind of have a nice little relationship. I think they break up again. He gets with Lola, and they work really well. Peter and Lola, I like them together. They're pretty good. And then, yeah, so that kind of works for a bit. But then he obviously gets back with Lauren, and all that. And then something else that happens that's a massive part of Ben Hardy's Peter Beale, and it's something that I'm going to mention quite a lot, is the famous Who Killed Lucy Beale storyline. So, basically, Peter Beale finds out that Lucy, his twin sister, has died. She was murdered, and all that kind of stuff. And then it beats into this like 2-year-long story arc of who killed Lucy, which I think was a really amazing storyline, because anyone could have killed Lucy. It was like, had to be in the right place at the right time. You know, there's certain areas that, you know, hinted on who killed Lucy. And you really see a really emotional side to Peter, which is excellently portrayed by Ben Hardy. So you really feel sorry for Peter. He's like traumatised by this. He's literally 20 years old, and his sister is dead, like his twin sister. And I couldn't put it any better when the words he says at Lucy's funeral is that he says, "For the first time in my life, I'm older than my sister," which I find really upsetting, that he's actually older, you know, than Lucy, even though she was only like a few minutes born before. And yeah, so that's really sad, and you get that kind of great emotion where every character who meets him, they can't think of what to say to Peter, because every time they pass Peter, they always associate, you know, Lucy and all of the stuff that happened with him and Lucy. So I always find that really interesting. And that also leads Peter down a really dark path, where he's taking drugs, all sorts of stuff, and he's just not doing very well. But one person who was there for him the entire time was Lauren. Of course she was, because Lauren loves and cares about Peter Beale. So yeah, they kind of, you know, Peter and Lauren, they stay together and all that, and you really do get all of those emotional scenes between, you know, like even Lauren and Peter, they go and visit Lucy's grave and all that sort of stuff. And really, really good stuff. EastEnders in 2014, 2015. What a cracking show it was then. Not saying it's not a great show now, but like it was like at its peak. I mean, like it was proper good stuff. But yeah, I really do enjoy that quality of Ben Hardy's version of Peter Beale. And fun fact, I walked past Peter Beale at Gatwick Airport in July. Or maybe it was August. No, I walked past him at Gatwick Airport in August. And yeah, completely mad, you know. I walked past Peter Beale, you know. So that was pretty mental. Yeah, so it was really cool finding out about, you know, Peter and how he kind of feels about that. And then he leaves with another Julius theme, and if you don't know what the Julius theme is, when a song that plays when a character exits, like, you know, emotional exit. So he goes off with Lauren, all lovely, happy as anything. He goes off with Lauren, he buys a little, you know, one of those baby grow things, and it's got London, I Love London on it. Yeah, so he buys one of them and they say, oh, we're going off to New Zealand, and they go off in their nice romantic way. All as everything was going so well between Peter and Lucy, not Peter and Lucy, she's dead, Peter and Lauren. About a year later, Lauren's back. And then she has the baby, and she gets with Stephen Beale, and then Stephen dies, and we hear nothing from Peter throughout this entire point. We hear bits about Peter and how he's doing, and we get told, you know, that he still kind of hates Bobby, which is really understandable. But I do enjoy, before Ben Hardy's Peter Beale exits, he kind of talks to Bobby in a kind of a nice way, because he knows that, you know, Bobby doesn't really understand what he's done, even though everyone else knows, and he'll probably go to prison, which he does. Well, a youth detention centre. Anyway, so yeah, we kind of have all of that kind of stuff going on between, for Peter particularly, which I found, you know, really interesting. And then as we move on to that, I say Peter goes away. He leaves the square in 2015, gets a nice Julius theme, nice exit, and I don't know why they brought Lauren back. I don't really know why. But yeah, they did. And then Lauren leaves and she goes back to New Zealand, and then she lives with Peter again, and everything's all happy. And, you know, 2018 to 2020, Peter and Lauren are together. Sorry, I forgot to mention, Louis was born. Louis Beale was born. Yeah, he was born. So Lauren and Louis, they go back to New Zealand, and then they live with Peter Beale. And their relationship breaks up again, and then Peter Beale comes back to Walford for the 30th anniversary of EastEnders. No, 35th anniversary of EastEnders. And this is where the famous boat crash happens, as everyone probably knows. I actually watched this live on transmission, actually. Cool bit of information. Yeah, and we all have that kind of stuff. Oh, who was there when Dennis drowned and all that? And we all knew Ian was involved, but it wasn't really Ian's fault, to be fair. I mean, it was a bit, but like not as much. At least he tried to rescue him, you know. So yeah, we kind of have all of that, and that's really good. I enjoy that part. But then we also have, so Peter comes back and he's like, his first line is, I'm here to see my brother. And it's like, the name's Peter Beale. Peter Beale. Like that. He just says, oh, Peter Beale, you know, like that. And then he gets out, and Peter has grown so much. Not as a character, literally in height. He's literally gone from being like 5'8" to 6'3". Now, there's not very many people who are about 22 who suddenly have a growth spurt like that. But, you know, Peter Beale did. And this is where we get introduced to Dale Hudson as Peter Beale. And now, I can talk about Dale Hudson. I really enjoy his portrayal of Peter Beale. I know, controversial, because some people don't like his portrayal, but I really do like Dale Hudson's portrayal. And I can't believe Peter Beale grew 7 inches. I mean, mental. Because there was an article published, I think, by one of the newspapers, and it had the picture of Ben Hardy next to Ian, and he was like a little bit shorter than Ian. And then there's the new photo where it was like he was like well taller than Ian. Just I don't know what happened there, but yeah. But I really do like Dale Hudson's portrayal of Peter Beale, and he brings a darker edge to Peter, which I think is really great, because if you think about it, you're returning to Walford, you're literally going to have to share a room with Bobby Beale, the man, or teenager as he was at the time, who murdered your twin sister. Like, you're going to have to face that every day, knowing that person that you wake up in that same room as, they killed your sister. You're not just any sister, but your twin sister, someone who, and I can't put it better than how Dale Hudson puts it in December 2020, where he says, oh, I watched him squirm and I loved it, and they're like, that's sick. And he was like, that's sick. He said, because he killed my twin sister, I feel that hole every day for the rest of my life. You know, and that line, I feel like really gets you, you know, because you kind of feel how Peter's getting angry. And then he throws a tantrum at Ian, saying, "You stole money raised in memory of his dead daughter." You know, his favourite, by the way. You know, that kind of a line. I think I have a really good impression of Peter. Yeah, so I really like that kind of scene, and that's a really great scene. But I also do love the way that Dale Hudson does bring to the character. You kind of have that relationship with Bobby where he's kind of a bit more strict around Bobby. Sometimes he's nice to him, but there's sometimes deep down that knows that Peter doesn't want him around. You know, that there's something that Dale Hudson's betrayal particularly doesn't really like Bobby. Because, to be fair, who wouldn't like Bobby? Like, because I know Bobby's a very different person to, you know, the person who he was then. But I really do like that, because it brings it more down to earth that this is what someone would think, you know, of someone who's murdered, like someone really close to your family. So that's what I really like about Dale Hudson's betrayal. But also the kind of the stuff that goes on with Dale Hudson. I mean, I'm not a fan of certain bits, like putting him with Sookie. I found that really bizarre, because they made her a lesbian anyway in later episodes, so I don't really know. That was a bit random, really. I feel like it was just to get back at Ash for whatever reason. I really don't know. But also, yeah, him and Ash, I'm not a big fan of that dynamic. Peter and Lauren, all the time, like, you can't go wrong. Just get them married. I mean, they've been engaged twice and they've got a child, and they love each other, so EastEnders, get them married, you know. Yeah, so I like Dale Hudson's betrayal, and yeah, so I kind of like that kind of dynamic that they have going on, which I felt was really good, the way they did that. And then obviously you got the stuff, you know, with Kathy, and then Rocky, finding out that Rocky's a liar, him kind of briefly dating Dottie Cotton and stuff like that, and just kind of that darker kind of path. And also I do love this really funny scene where they batter Peter Beale's iPad, which is a really funny scene. I think it's on YouTube somewhere. Well, obviously Martin Fowler and Zach, they basically fry not Ian Beale, but, you know, Peter Beale's iPad, which I found rather interesting. That they kind of decided to then, you know, do that, which was a bit funny, really, because he was acting a bit like a prat, really, to be fair. But I do solidly enjoy Dale Hudson's betrayal. But also, he's got a really good exit, because you think about it, he gets attacked by Ben Mitchell, because Ben Mitchell thinks he's someone else. And so Ben Mitchell got raped by another man, and it was all a very dark and horrible storyline. And then Ben decides to beat up a person who he thinks looks like the guy, and he ends up attacking Peter. And I think that was just a step too far. But then to try and cover it up and say it wasn't Ben, and then Kathy to then testify to say that it wasn't Ben, made Peter so angry, because Peter had been seriously hurt by Ben, like seriously hurt. And towards the end of Dale Hudson's tail end of his era in 2022, there's a really great scene where they're you know, playing video games at Rocky's party, and you kind of see that kind of the kind of, even though they're on that video game, there's something else going on more to it than that you kind of see going on underneath it. Like them two are playing their video game, but it's more than just the video game. There's an underlying message between them. Like these two guys really don't like each other, and there's something that's, you know, not really going right between them. Which I kind of enjoy, that kind of dynamic they have there. And I think Dale Hudson and Max Bowden, I think they really get on well. Like I feel like you can tell that in the acting, kind of the way they are and stuff. And I feel like that's really good, a really good quality of that character, which is mad. And something else I do enjoy particularly. So something else is that, you know, Peter Beale, he kind of gets aggro that Kathy chose, you know, Ben over him. He says, "You're no grandson of mine," and all that kind of stuff. And that's just a bit horrible, really. So Peter gets fed up. He gets fed up. He goes to the restaurant and all that. And then, who's in there but Ben? He tries to drown Peter. Like, literally, drowns him. And it's literally reminds me of the scenes in the 90s, you know, between Adam Woodyatt and Steve McFadden as Ian Bill and, you know, Phil Mitchell. You know, they kind of, but he's putting his head down the toilet, but this time he's putting him in the sink and stuff. And you get that kind of big hardness stuff and that kind of, yeah, I feel like that's a really good scene, and such amazing acting by them involved. So I really do enjoy that. And then you kind of get that great scene where Peter leaves and he says like, "Oh, you're a joke, you know. Who knows what skeleton he's got in his closet?" And he's talking about Rocky, because see, Rocky's lied about loads of stuff. And then he's like, kind of storms off again, and he like grabs Bobby and he starts twisting his arm, and he's like, he was like, "I'd rather be a snake than a murderer," and stuff like that. And it was like, you know, and that, I feel like that's a really good scene. And then he says, and then he says to Kathy, you know, he says, "Oh, like, you know, oh, yeah, you might throw yourself off a cliff or you done to Ben, but still don't change what you did to him in South Africa," you know, that kind of stuff, which I find a really great thing, because obviously Kathy did do that. She, her family, for Kathy. And Peter gets in an absolute strop, and I really do appreciate this, because it's all of that kind of emotions that have been building up over the last 5 years of Peter, you know, and it feels like it really gets released, and that's something that I feel that's really good about Dale Hudson's portrayal, particularly. And yeah, so Peter leaves, and he says, I'm done, and Peter goes off, and then, who would believe it, but about 6 months later, Peter returns. But not with Dale Hudson portraying the role, but Thomas Law, someone who left the character 13 years prior, which is something completely mad to even happen. So yeah, turns out Cindy Beale's back from the dead. Thomas Law is now Peter Beale, and Adam Woodyatt's back as Ian Bill, as ever. And yeah, they're all back, and you get to see what's kind of happened. He then finds out he's got 2 sisters they didn't know about, and all that kind of stuff, which is completely mental, that all to happen in the space to happen to Peter. So he rushes back to Walford, and you never guess, you know, he's there, and he's there with Bobby and all that. And then, you top it all off, loads of other stuff happen whilst he's back in Walford. Peter gets literally set on fire in the calf when Rocky sets the calf on fire. It literally explodes, with literally Peter and Bobby being blown to smithereens, but they're all right in the end. And absolute madness. And then then Lauren comes back, and then he gets with Lauren, and here we are now, really. That's kind of come full circle. And Thomas Law playing Peter Bill again is something that I don't think I ever thought would ever really happen, and it happened, you know. That opens up the opportunity for more actors who previously played those characters to play them again, really. I mean, completely mental. Yeah, so that's kind of come full circle, really, with Thomas Law now being Peter Bill again. And just a little bit of trivia, Peter's shrunk. He's now like 5'11", 6 foot, you know, he's not 6'3" anymore. That comment that Ben Mitchell made, beanpole, doesn't really work anymore. So that's quite funny looking back. But that's the charm to EastEnders. I like EastEnders. You know, you get a bit of humour and you get a bit of fun out of it, and that's what I like about EastEnders. And to top it all off, the great scene that I'm talking about, there's something else I forgot to mention. In 2020, Peter did have a brief affair with Lola and that kind of stuff, and that made Ben a bit angry. Not just Ben, but it made Ben and Jay and that kind of bit aggro with Peter, but it was all fine in the end and all that. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in a video soon enough. I hope you enjoyed this EastEnders character file review, and yeah, I'll see you in a video soon enough. Bye for now.